Good afternoon. My name is Tom Miller. I am with the Ohio Distance Learning Association. I am also with the Cleveland Clinic, but here today as a proud member of the Ohio Distance Learning Association. As we get started on our webinar here with our tech showcase, we are going to have some wonderful presenters talking about all kinds of really cool technology and what's out there in the world. But before we do that, we kind of want to know who's in our audience. If you'd be so kind as to take our pre-session poll, which basically will tell us who's in our audience there. So if you go to menti.com and you type in 250406 or there's a QR code up there if you want to just snap it with your camera. That'll help us know who's actually attending. So we'll give that about 30 seconds. Let us know who's coming in. All right, so it looks like, give it another minute. Today's audience is mostly tech specialists. All right, so now you know. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Again, I'm Tom Miller with the Cleveland Clinic, but also a proud member of the Ohio Distance Learning Association. I just want to hand this over to Dave Stein, who is the chair of the Ohio Distance Learning Association, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about OhioDLA.
Thank you, Tom, and welcome everyone. We appreciate all of you being here. As Tom said, my name's Dave Stein. I actually work at the LACA ITC in Newark. I've been involved in video conferencing for about 17 years. And the Ohio Distance Learning Association, OhioDLA, has existed for over 20 years informally, but we formed a state chapter of the United States Distance Learning Association about 9 years ago, just so that we could try to advance the cause with higher ups in state education and with legislators to try to bring more people to the table, get more students involved. So our group is a totally voluntary group for the board that serves, and we have a lot of the distance learning experts around the state. So think of content providers such as zoos, museums, COSI, those who offer virtual field trip programs. Those are academic standards-based experiences that we bring into schools to supplement curriculum. And then we have other members such as schools. All of our ITCs are currently members. Lots of our ESCs, EdTechs, BEMC, Broadcast Educational Media Commission. So these support agencies, along with schools, are there helping to support some of their own programs as well. We do have some daily course programs that have existed, some of which have been around for over a decade. So our members actually have quite a bit of experience in this realm, and it's been pretty fortunate coming to the table in light of the pandemic crisis that we've been able to capitalize on some of the expertise of our folks. So some of the things that we're working on today, we work very closely with the MCOECN Management Council, the Ohio Education Computer Network, Info Ohio Department of Education. We try to align with some of their endeavors. If any of you are familiar with Remote edX, that is a collaborative right now to try to reimagine education as we move through the pandemic and into the future as we have more blended environments. So, and right now it's kind of a good time because there's money flowing. We've got grant activity, so more participation. And the beautiful thing about what we do is we try to remove barriers and bring equity to students across the state. So it doesn't matter where you are or your lack of access. With distance learning, we try to level the field. So thanks a lot, Tom. Appreciate it, and really appreciate all the providers who are with us today.
Thanks, Dave. So we have quite a lineup for you today, and we're going to start right in. Our first presenters are from Poly, So Ashley Olinger, Scott Perdue, and Melissa Bisbo are on and around, and they're going to kind of take over for a couple minutes here. And we appreciate, again, your time. And I'll be monitoring the Q&A for questions if you have questions along the way. And then also we'll have some time at the end for you to answer or to have questions answered. So take it away, Polly.
Excellent, Tom. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. So hello, everyone. I'm Scott Perdue. I'm the Education Director for Poly in the Eastern United States. Much like many of you with Dave's introduction have been in this industry for well over 20 years. Poly is a platinum sponsor of the USDLA. So we've got a long history and heritage of really understanding the applications. We're going to turn it over to Melissa to do a live demonstration in our Austin facility in just a second. But before we do that, in case you're wondering, Poly is the newly formed combination of Polycom video and Plantronics headsets coming together as one company. So that's really a little bit of what you're going to see today. I want to start because I don't want to miss the application of why we're doing all this, right? And I want to start with just one brief story of an example of one of our the organizations that we work with in New Jersey with a specific K through 12 teacher. And we'll provide a link to this video to allow her to tell her story. But like most teachers, Esther has been in both hybrid and fully virtual models where she teaches in the classroom some days and from home some days. We'll post this video so you can see some of the highlights, but some of the comments that she had were, the system untethers teachers from being locked in front of their computer. The camera quality and the teacher tracking make it highly interactive. It elevates the learning experience for teachers and students, and then the result is more of a natural experience as close as possible to the pandemic. So a few school systems throughout the United States, Boston Public Schools, over 4,000 systems deployed of the system type that you're going to see today. Broward County Schools in Florida, over 6,000, and recently LA Unified School District, over 20,000 systems and 500,000 headsets. So we're seeing this demand based on the need. I think what's important is we're seeing these devices on the Zoom platform and register natively as well. So that's something that we're going to focus on in the demonstration today. And with that, I'll turn it over to Melissa.
Thank you, Scott. Hi, everyone. Melissa here, coming to you from our Experience Center in Austin, Texas. I'm just going to spend the next few minutes walking you through a few of our products, showing you the native Zoom application running on them, and also some camera and audio innovations that we have built in here. So what I have here is our Studio X30 and X50. These are all-in-one devices, so camera, speaker, microphone, have the codec built in, and then it's running this native Zoom application. So you can have in your classroom that native Zoom experience that you're used to on an all-in-one device. Don't need additional microphones or cameras or anything else in the room. Everything is built in, so it's very easy to use. And if people are familiar with the Zoom interface, this is Zoom's application running on our hardware. X30 meant for those, great for those teachers who have to teach from home and then maybe transition back into a smaller classroom, and then X50 for those larger classrooms. The great thing about these as well is they all integrate in with touchscreen. So we're running that native Zoom application. I can control this from a touchscreen. I used to be a teacher before coming to Poly for 15 years, so I have a lot of experience in the classroom, and a lot of the features built in definitely help with that learning experience. So we have the ability to just click in to join into a meeting. So you have your Zoom meeting set up. You can just walk right in, click to start in there. Can also just join in if you have a new meeting ID, easy to activate that as well. We have touch screens here, so we have that built-in whiteboarding feature. So we have the whiteboarding, Zoom's whiteboard application. So you're up in the front of the room and you want to be able to have that interactive whiteboard built into this as well. So you can do this in and out of a call. I can be in a call with my device. I can be having that whiteboarding session, sending home to the students who are on the far end, or just using it in the classroom as well. So maybe you're not in a interactive session, but it doubles as that whiteboard, blackboard interaction up in the front of the room. And then we are running that native Zoom application so we can wirelessly share content into our call. So anyone in the classroom is able to walk in and share their content using the application or the browser. So if you have those students in the classroom who may have their own devices, they're able to share their content up on the screen as well. So again, we've partnered with Zoom in this. They're a very strong partner of ours, running their application on our hardware. So you're getting that native Zoom experience on this all-in-one device. And these can be mounted, you see mine on table stands here. They can also be mounted above monitors. We've seen a lot also in the education space now of putting these on carts. So mobile carts with a monitor, so they're easily moved between classrooms. We know in this hybrid world, we've all been having to be flexible. So having the ability to move those around as well, very easy to set up and get going with those. I have that touch screen. You can also control it. We have this TC8 that's at the table. This is the Zoom application that also can run on an iPad as well. So you can have that controller running on the iPad to control the meeting as well if you didn't have that touch screen. So a lot of different ways to set up and have this running in that native Zoom application. I'm going to flip over. What I really want to show you here is some of our audio and camera innovations that are built in. So we have some great camera tracking and some audio features that are going to be able to help with those distracting noises. So I'm just going to flip over to my other system and join in from here so I can highlight some of those. So I'll be back with you in less than 10 seconds.
So while Melissa's doing that, just a quick reminder, in your upper right-hand corner, you have a view icon. And if you choose speaker view, you'll see full screen, the demonstration for Melissa.
All right, I'm back with you here. Let me make my full screen. All right. So I'm back with you now. I've just joined in. I'm going to highlight a few of our camera tracking technologies as well as audio innovations that are built into these all-in-one devices. So these cameras actually have a 120-degree field of view. So you're seeing this entire space that I have here. You can pick up pretty much this, if this was a classroom, the entire classroom. But if I'm the only one in here or I just want to focus on a different or a specific part of the room, we also have the ability to just set some presets. So I can zoom in on me over here, or if I want to move over here and transition and teach from another part of the room, or I have a whiteboard behind me that I'm zooming in on, we have the ability to move around between the two of those with the click of a button. What I really want to highlight here though is something that's become very popular. It's called presenter mode. When this first started, the pandemic first went in, I started calling it teacher mode because it's a perfect example of how to track letting a teacher work seamlessly in the room. So this here is a camera tracking feature that's going to allow me as the teacher to walk around the room and not have to think about fumbling with a remote control. As a former teacher, I know that you don't stand in one spot. This gives me the freedom without having something attached to me or additional microphones throughout the room to walk around the room freely, interact with any students who may still be in the room, and allow those students who are at home the ability to feel like they're still in the room with me. So that's the big thing here. We know that it's not easy for students to be at home and having to learn. So having this ability for me to just walk around and highlight things and make them feel like they're still immersed in that classroom experience. I'm going to turn my tracking off here because I want to highlight for you a couple of the audio innovations built in here. So the first one I want to demonstrate is our noise block technology. We actually have this built into a lot of our products here at Poly, all the way down to some of our headsets. So what it is think of it as a smart mute for your system. It's going to listen for people talking in the room. And then when no one's talking, it's going to automatically mute out the microphones without me having to go to the controller or my client and mute out. And you won't hear those distracting noises. So in the classroom, it could be students eating a snack or shuffling papers or typing on the keyboards. If teachers are at home, we know there's a whole nother set of distracting noises we're having to deal with now: dog, doorbell ringing, lawnmower, all of those things. So I'm going to demonstrate this for you. I'm going to turn my noise block off first because I want you to hear the difference of when I do turn it on. I'm going to play a really loud noise here from my phone, and then I'm going to activate my noise block so you can hear exactly how it works. So I'm going to turn this off first. I'm going to play this noise from my phone here, loud and distracting. No one wants to hear this. I'm going to click my noise block on now, but continue to play this. So when I turn my noise block on, the noise went away when I wasn't talking. Now that I am talking, you can hear it again, but it's nowhere near as loud as it was before. So we have that AI that's built in that's going to allow us to bring down any of those distracting background noises and allow us to talk over it or mute them out completely when there's no human speech happening in the room. And the last thing I want to show you is our acoustic fence technology. So this one here uses the edges of the microphone, And when I activate my acoustic fence, and you can configure this to be narrow or pretty much up to the field of view of the camera, any noise that's coming from outside of those parameters that I set up is going to be muted out. So think of this in a classroom scenario. There may be students in the room and there's another classroom walking down the hallway. It could be very loud out there. You can turn on the fence and block out that. Or I'm teaching a whole class lesson and then I want to teach a specific lesson to those at home. Don't want the students in the classroom to be distracting those kids who may be at home. If you're sitting outside of that fence, not going to come through. And then again, at home, all those distracting noises you want to block out from other rooms or outside. So I'm going to activate my fence for you and works. So I'm inside the fence, you can hear me. I'm going to talk and clap and make some noise, and I'm going to move outside of my fence. Back inside of my fence, and you can hear me once again. So again, what I really want to highlight here, we can have those native Zoom experiences on our hardware, and then we have all those camera tracking technologies and acoustic features built in that, work with no matter what meeting you're on, and I don't have to think about it, don't have to fumble with remotes. I join my meeting and everything just works as it should, and it allows the teacher to forget about the technology and teach. We know how hard it is to have to do both of those these days. So thank you for letting me show you this. I know that was really quick, but hopefully you got an idea of the great things we're doing here at Poly. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Spencer and Elise, I believe.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. That was awesome, Melissa. I am not a teacher, but hopefully I can bring some intel as well as I have been a student for a long time. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me at the OhioDLA. I am an avid lifelong Browns fan, so I was thrilled to be able to present during this. I also attended Ohio University, so I am alumni there as well. And today, what we're going to be doing is I am in our Chicago demo office. So along with Spencer, I am going to be demoing some of Neat's products through our portfolio as they apply to modern learning the Neat way. We have deployed one Neat bar in schools to up to 100. So any use case is possible. And again, we can speak with you further on that by going to our website, neat.no, which I will then repeat at the end of this conversation. But over to you, Spencer.
Thanks. And again, I'm Spencer Wise. I'm a product specialist here at Neat and thrilled to be talking to you today about what's in our product portfolio. So just to walk through a couple of slides to set the stage and give you a little context, Neat is a relatively newer company in the space. We were founded kind of in partnership with Zoom. We make primarily Zoom video appliances for conference rooms and classrooms. We do have some products on the roadmap, which will be generally applicable to any conferencing platform, but we do partner very tightly with Zoom as the platform we're developing toward. We do joint roadmap with Zoom all the way down to hardware component selection, so we are aligned with them very tightly. We've also tried to take our inspiration for our setup experience from consumer brands like Apple and Sonos, where you just take the device out of the box, follow some intuitive instructions, and it's running in a few minutes. And if you've done video conferencing installations in this industry before, that's generally not the case. There's lots of specialized information that you need to have, but we've simplified our installation process down to literally language, time zone, and then your launching calls. So literally a matter of seconds to do setup of one of these devices. We offer a no risk return policy, and we are fully supported by the Zoom platform. So all these devices can be managed, controlled within the same Zoom tools you're accustomed to. So if you've been managing Zoom users, you're using the same tools to manage these kinds of room and appliance devices. And we're continually innovating both with Zoom and on the hardware by itself. So as the Zoom platform brings out new features, we adopt those into the hardware and vice versa. There are some things that we're doing in hardware, which Zoom is taking advantage of on the platform side. So we're thrilled at the relationship with Zoom. And it's just one more proof point of that lineage. If you're familiar with the industry, you may recognize the couple of gentlemen shown here. Eric Wan, the CEO of Zoom, is on the left. and OJ Winga, one of our primary investors and also day-to-day leadership personnel. OJ is pretty famous from his stint at Tamberg, and really Eric came to what's now Neat Leadership and said that it would be great if we could have those Tamberg type, really elegant appliance devices for the Zoom room space. And so Neat was able, via our long history in the space and our connections, to handpick the best engineers in the industry and develop a really compelling suite of products. What we're going to be showing today is the Neat Bar first. I'm on a Neat Bar calling in from home now. And if you're in gallery view, Elise is holding up a Neat Bar in the Chicago office, so you can get an idea of the physical size. That has all of the components that you need for conferencing: cameras, microphones, speakers, and even some goodies on top like air quality sensors. And then that comes with a Neat Pad shown there. That's the controller to launch, manage, and end calls. We do also ship every Neat Bar and Pad with all of the mounting hardware that you might need for whatever configuration it's going into. So whether it's going above or below a display, going on a wall, below a projector, any kind of physical environment, we just ship all of the hardware. So we're trying to make not just operation, but even procurement as easy as possible. If you're not sure where the device is going to go, you just order one, and then all of the possible physical configurations are included. In the middle here, we have the Neat Board, which Elise is standing next to in our Chicago office. This is a 65-inch capacitive touch display device. It comes with a couple of feet, so it can just sit on a table or on a credenza. It's also shown here with the optional floor stand, and we have a wall mount option as well. So that can go into any kind of physical arrangement that makes sense for you as well. And Elise will be showing some of the features of the Neat Board in just a moment. And then finally, on the right, we have the Neat Pad shown in both of its operational modes. It can be a controller for Zoom room devices, either from Neat or from others. So if you have traditional, Mac or PC powered conference rooms, we can be a replacement controller. Lots of people have had difficulties with other controllers, either having battery longevity issues or patching issues. So we're seeing lots of organizations standardize on Neat Pad as a controller. And then perhaps more applicable to the corporate space than for education, but we also have a scheduling display mode where the device can be positioned outside the room to show the availability, whether it's red or green, booked or available in that space. So let me pass it over to Elise to talk a little bit more in detail and show you some of these products physically in Chicago.
Thanks, Spencer. So what I'm holding is the Neat Bar, and again, like Spencer said, I am speaking on it right now. I will have Spencer explain our microphones, and then I'll get into the camera and show some of our auto framing and symmetry technology.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a mouthful, but we have what we call a 5-microphone end fire beam forming array. And if you take nothing else from that, that's just a really sophisticated kind of microphone technology. It's really above and beyond what we've been able to do for these kinds of spaces before. It was typically reserved for more expensive integrated conference rooms. So it's just a really great microphone pickup, especially if you're in a busy classroom with lots of students and potentially distracting noises.
Great. And our camera. So I have all the 3 presets available to me. I am on preset 2 right now to frame the board for this meeting, but what if I do want to move around the room? So we have the ability to do auto framing. And what you'll see is the camera zooms out to frame me properly. And as I walk around the room, the camera is going to follow me. And what it does is it's following my silhouette. So it's not following my voice. It's not jumpy at all. It's actually following me as I walk around the room. And it's a seamless. So like Melissa said, teachers aren't standing still. They're walking up to a desk. They're moving around. So it's a great way for you to be untethered from any devices. Now, I want you guys all to imagine that we're in class right now and it's actually career day. So for career day today, I am having my colleague Dwight come and talk about sales at Dunder Mifflin. So Dwight's gonna stand over here because we wanna be socially distanced, and I'm gonna move to the other side of the room. And what you'll see is the camera is now zooming out to frame us both in the picture. I'm not touching anything. And then neat symmetry kicks in and it frames us both into our own square. This is great because Dwight is very needy and he likes to be in his own square, have the audience on him. And it's also nice because if I were to sit down and move around, what the camera is going to do is it'll frame out again to see me within the screen. And then you'll see it break out into the two. Usually when I am sitting, I'll probably have to move a little farther away, I apologize. But what this does is it makes sure that you can see, all the participants that are in the room with you. This also can include additional people, so it's not limited to just one or two. I'm gonna invite my friend Danny over here to come in for Career Day. Danny's gonna talk about some of the roles that he has been in. So you see it frame out and then you'll see it frame in. And Danny's a lot shorter. So what you've seen is that it's actually aligned us all to be the same height. So it's a lot more pleasing to the end user. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining us for Career Day. I am going to.
and sorry, let me just mention we're at NEAT, of course, very excited about what Alicia just showed you. This has never been done in the conference room before, and especially as we think about a safe return to the classroom with more social distance between people, that traditional problem in video conferencing room shots gets even worse, where you've got tables, chairs, desks, walls, things that are not important taking up on-screen real estate. And so this is a way of essentially cropping out that unnecessary information from the video feed and sending only what you want to be relevant to the interaction for those participants on the far end. So we think this is a revolutionary way to interact with those in the classroom. And this is just the beginning. We're also working with Zoom to incorporate multiple feeds from one camera into the gallery view. So what you saw was essentially a split of the one feed coming from Elise's room, but we will be able to send Dwight and Danny and Elise all as their own individual participants in the gallery view, which again, it's just never been done before from these spaces.
Great. Let's touch on the board real quick. So what you see behind me is our NEAT board, and that is a 65-inch touchscreen display. Right now, I am sharing content from my laptop. So if I wanted to stop sharing, all I would do is move over to my laptop and stop the share. Now, there are multiple ways in order to share, but the easiest way I have found is to type in the sharing key. So I will do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a worksheet. So by pulling up the worksheet, what I hope to demonstrate is the ability for students to come up and write on the board so that the students that are remote can see what is going on. You can annotate on it. You can even save the work to send to students after for reference. All right, so I downloaded the easiest worksheet that I could find online. So I hope I don't miss anything up. I would really speak to my Ohio University education, but little Johnny, I call him up to work on this worksheet, and he's able to come up and pick a color. He can pick the weight of his pen. He can either use the pen that are passive, they don't need chargers or batteries, or he can use his finger. So what he does is he can fill it all out, and then say I have him go sit down and I want Jessica to come up. And Jessica can then either erase it or pick a new color, and then be able to not only share with the class that is in class, but this is what you are seeing as you are remote. So that's one of my favorite features because, usually if I was in class, I was taking pictures of the notes that were written on the board. So this is a really nice way to be able to save it and share it. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen and show the interface, and it is the Zoom for Touch interface. So you have the whiteboarding capabilities if you are outside of a call, as well as the blackboarding capabilities. You can save, send it to people, have another sheet come up, and everything is just at your fingertips. Also, multiple people can be up here at a time. We support up to 40 points of touch, but Zoom currently supports up to 10. So you can have 10 students up here at a time if you would really like that much of a headache, but I would suggest not doing that.
Yeah, and with social distancing, probably not for a while. So I think the last thing we want to show you is the interface from the Neat Pad, which again can be a controller for any Neat device or any third-party device. And what you're going to see as Elise pulls this up is that it's the same iconography, the same design language from Zoom that everyone is familiar with the Zoom desktop and mobile apps. So there's very minimal or arguably no learning curve as you transition from using Zoom on a PC to using a device like this. So if you're needing to manage the roster list, mute students, et cetera, you have your participants list there on the bottom row, your very big obvious mute buttons, video start and stop buttons, and content share. So again, a very easy way to transition from Zoom on the desktop to Zoom in the conference room.
Yep. Perfect. So all those controls are right there. As you saw that I was using them at the pad today, and then I was able to be hands-free as well. So with that being said, I think we're up on time. I just wanted to say thank you everyone for having us here today. It was a pleasure being able to be here. And if you have any questions, please feel free to go to neat.no or neat.no/education, which is more geared towards higher and lower education. Or you can email sales@neat.no, but we do have sales reps on our live chat. So if you have any questions, someone will be able to get back to you within seconds. Thank you, everyone.
And we will turn it over to Brian at Logitech.
Thanks, Spencer. Share here. All right. I'll try to be quick so we have some time for some questions at the end. Thanks to Tom for setting this up, and great presentations by both Polly and Neat. So I'm Brian Badko. I'm the Territory Account Manager for Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. Been covering this territory for a long time, and talk to you a little bit about Logitech solutions for video collaboration. So what we try to do at Logitech is take it both from not only from a personal level all the way to a team or a large scale level, either into a classroom or an office building. So it really comes down to, as we've seen with the pandemic, many people, individuals are stuck at home and they have to collaborate in some way with video, and many are using the Logitech webcams to do that as well. Logitech from an industry perspective, some people know us, or most people know us for our keyboard and mice, but we've really taken off here in the video collaboration world over the last 3 to 5 years. More than 50% of rooms or video collaboration find themselves with a Logitech camera and or Logitech conferencing solution. What we try to do is create the same user experience in every room, no matter if it's the small, medium, and large. And again, the same with the classroom all the way through an auditorium level. We also make our products to be uptime is substantial, so that you don't have to worry about things becoming disconnected, failing, going down and causing an issue. And as you know, in an environment like a classroom with a lot of kids, coming around, we're able to secure our devices so that there's no, problems with cables coming undone and things going down and not working at those critical times. What we do is we have a philosophy of a small, medium, and large. And what we do is we have solutions not only for Zoom, but also for Teams and Google Meets. And we put those out on either a Chromebook, and or your choice of hardware providers such as Dell, HP, or Lenovo, or Intel as well, to run either the Zoom, the Teams, or the other apps that are available on today. Well, right now, Google obviously runs on their own device. We introduced some new products recently, similar to the line with what Neat and also Poly with their X30, X50 is our Rally Bar and Rally Bar Mini. The Rally Bar will handle a medium-sized room and it has 7 beamforming microphones and a 4K camera, and can easily handle it without a lot of extra accessories going on in the room as well. You can either be run in a standalone camera speaker microphone, such as our Meetup product, or you can run it with our tap touch controller to run the application that's running on the bar. Currently today, we're shipping for Zoom, but then certification for the product for Microsoft will be coming probably closer to mid-year. So what we find is, and with this pandemic, we've also seen is that, the need for cameras. The Meetup here, we've sold, geez, I've been seeing some of our education guys doing deals for 5,000 to 10,000 cameras for different school districts of the Meetup alone. So we've done well over 100 million webcams, because that's kind of, the webcam market was kind of a forgotten market. All of a sudden everybody needed webcams, but also in the classroom environment too. We've been doing classroom solutions for many, many years. And again, like our earlier slide showed, that we do small, medium, and large, and we provide that one-touch join for each room. So, and again, here are our new products with the Rally Bar and Rally Bar Mini. Now, it's great to have all these different devices out there, but how do you manage them? How do you make sure they're up to the right firmware level out there in your environment and able to see all these devices out there? So we have our Logitech Sync software application. It's a free application that will show you all your devices online, not only the Logitech devices, but also ones from Poly, Aver, and others, Crestron as well, and show those devices online. We can't update or change the status of them, but we can tell you that they're out there and they're either online or not online in the environment. Also with our Logitech Sync application, we talk about social distancing. It's also kind of capacity related as well. So like, get the others, Melissa showed the demonstration on how the forming of the tracking of the torsos. We actually count the people in the room, and we know how many people are in the room for those meetings. And then with that, we can tell you what the capacity is in that room. So you could have a room that holds 30 people. You could set the capacity to 15, and it would know how many people are in that room, and then give you results back here showing what the capacity was, in the room for those meetings. Now, on a business side, many times facilities wants to know that, are these rooms being used to their fullest extent? We have a room that can hold 30 people, but it looks like, whenever we have a meeting and there's only 10, so maybe we need to break that room into 2 rooms. So a lot of great analytics come out of the Logitech Sync application. It also provides you a very easy format to manage all your video collaboration devices. Talk a little about personal solutions. I'm on the Logitech Brio camera right now. It's a 4K webcam. We sold a bunch. We've actually sold a bunch of these in classrooms for teachers. Many school districts hadn't planned for budgets for pandemic, so many were looking for a low-cost way to go ahead and provide that video solution in their room without a traditional room system. Myself and everybody on this call, from a vendor standpoint, a lot of our products over the years have always been kind of focused mainly on the large enterprise customers, and then having to address the school market. We've done that not only with a fairly decent wide array of headsets, but also webcams. So just to kind of wrap up here, so we have some time left for questions, is that we provide a complete solution from the end user, one person, personal devices, all the way through the large classrooms, as well as the corporate environment, if you have a school board meeting or things of that nature as well. We provide for Google, Teams, and Zoom, as well as some others. PECSIP and Ring Central are coming, as well as our new products roll out on the Rally Bar and Rally Bar Mini that run in appliance mode. So what you see here, though, is that, especially on the left side here, we've sold probably well over 100,000 of the cameras on the left side, because many school districts found that they hadn't planned for this. And a room solution is really a nice thing with the touch panel. We do all that as well, too. But many are trying to equip video in all the classrooms. So we really provide a wide portfolio of camera options, because many teachers will run the Zoom application right from their own laptop versus equipping a room, and be able to have an affordable camera range that can go from small to large is really important, and we do provide that. And again, the personal side, a wide variety of webcams and headsets to meet your needs for personal collaboration for the teacher if they're teaching from home, as well as the students who may also be learning at home too. And I thank you for that. So we have some time for questions.
Well, thank you, everybody. Really appreciate the information, and wow, again, being a person who's into gadgets and technologies and just continuously wowed by the advances that all of your organizations are making. I did want to ask a question kind of across the board really quick and we'd appreciate if others who are participating in the webinar would ask questions as well. But just to level set for everybody, if you could really quick in the same order that we went, Poly, NEAT, and then Logitech, just in terms of the two things that either tech directors or educators in general are going to want to know is, like, in general, are you compatible with a PC, a Mac, a Chromebook, and are you then also able to connect into, as whether it's Zoom, whether it's Teams, whether it's Google, if you can just give us a quick overview of that. And then I know for some of the tech directors specifically that we've talked to over the years, especially in this pandemic, are you all in a position where you're shipping products that available? Can somebody make a call? Can somebody hit, your website, and will those be something, or is this, and we understand there's supply chain and we're in the middle of a pandemic, but anything you could share on those two areas, just in terms of either your compatibility or what can we make a phone call tomorrow and you drop ship me something, and I don't have my credit card out, so sorry guys, but if we go back, maybe you can start with Polly. What do you guys think in those two spaces, those two questions?
So I'll
Get your fence on.
oh okay, can you hear me now?
We can.
All right. There you go. We're showcasing the technology still. So as far as compatibility across the board, so our X50, X30, those are the ones with the built-in codec. I showed you it running it in native Zoom mode. We can also run them in other modes. So they can be run in a native Teams mode. We work with a lot of other partners if you want native experiences. We can also have the ability to do something called device mode, which is USB pass-through. So you could just plug in a laptop and run a meeting no matter what it is. Through that device. We also have our Studio USB device, which again is platform agnostic because it's just USB device. So we work with no matter PC, Mac, all of those, and then depending on which device you have, can be run in a native mode, but also support those other meeting platforms as well. And then as far as supply chain, I am not the person to answer that. I know we do have inventory. I'm more of the demonstration person. I'm not sure if Ashley has a better answer to that right now. I know these have become, as Scott mentioned at the beginning, we've been shipping these out, school districts buying them by the tens of thousands, but so I can't answer that one definitely. I'm not sure, Ashley, if you have any more insight into that.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. So, I mean, yes, we are good on stock, and we are working with our customers. If there is something that's going to be of the tens of thousands of units like LA County was, we work with them to make sure that they can get their shipment out as quickly as possible, because obviously that's a very large order. So, but at the end of the day, we are keeping up with the back orders. We are keeping up with stock issues, so that way we don't have any of those issues getting the units out to our customers.
Great. What about NEAT? What do you guys?
Yeah, so from a compatibility standpoint first, we do focus on Zoom as our primary development platform. And the Zoom platform does have some interoperability features. There's an interoperability gateway, which speaks the industry protocol. So if you get invited to some other meeting, you can dial through that gateway. We are also in Q2 going to be bringing out a USB pass-through feature where if you get invited to something and you just want to turn the NEAT bar into a USB peripheral, you can just plug into it to a PC. And then we do on the roadmap have some additional personal products, including a generic USB webcam for use with any conferencing platform. From a supply chain and availability standpoint, We've been shipping Neat bars for a little over a year. We have plenty of availability on bars and pads. We've been shipping Neat boards since October. And depending on the order size, we may have a little more constraint on Neat board. We are not back ordered, but as Ashley mentioned, if we're talking about a very large order, we may want to discuss exact timing and rollout plans for boards while we are ramping up production on those.
Thank you. That's wonderful. All right. And Brian, Logitech?
So yeah, we support all the different platforms with a Mac or PC. If it has a USB port on it and it has an application running that supports a camera, we'll connect to it. And again, like I said, we find a lot of the school districts are just buying the cameras and plugging them into the teacher's laptop to run those meetings in the room. Because when you go to a room system, you're a lot of times tripling the cost, and a lot of schools are on a tight budget. So we do support. So you can go, very basic, and you go very, very robust. And we have all those features in between. From a supply chain standpoint, it's interesting because one of my corporate slides when I do a corporate presentation is that everybody knows Logitech for keyboard and mice mainly, and but we manufacture, even before the pandemic, we manufacture and ship 2.5 million products a week. So. And that includes all of our Ultimate ears and all our Jaybird and all the different associated products that we have in our portfolio. From a webcam perspective, that's probably one of the hardest to get because we're still working through the back order. In September, October, or the August, September, October timeframe, we shipped 62 million webcams. I mean, it was just mind-boggling to think that our manufacturing group could produce that type of webcam. So it varies by product. Like our larger rally camera systems that would be for like a larger room, like a classroom. Those are like a 1 week turnaround. The Meetup, which is the small little bar, kind of like the X30 or like the Poly Studio. Those were in very high demand because of the price point. They're like $900, and that was a nice bang for their buck as a speaker, microphone, and camera all in one. Mounts very easy. It's very portable. It's a great solution. Those are a little bit longer lead time, might be a week or two. And like Ashley had mentioned that if you're going to order thousands of anything, it's a way you need to be in contact with us, and we can kind of roll that out. And hopefully, we are catching up dramatically. We had some of our cameras that were a 12 to 15 plus week lead time back in the fall. Because what we saw was people bought like the cheapest camera, like the eyeball and the stick. And then when those ran out, they moved up the next cost, and then they bought those, and those ran out, then they moved up and bought the next one. So we kept seeing that across the board because people were just scrambling to try to do anything. So long answer, but yeah, we're working through our supply. Different products have different lead times on them, but we are, I would say, well past the panic because school's been back in session since September, and people have pretty much found a way what they're going to do, and they're probably going to run that way through the end of the year too. So, and a great thing on any of these cameras that you're buying is the ability to repurpose those. We also saw prior to the pandemic was that a lot of companies were looking at more video because if you're it's a great productivity tool. Because if you're going to call a meeting as a manager and you got 10 people online for an hour, there's a cost with that. And you want to make sure they're paying attention. And no better way to make sure someone's paying attention is if they have their camera on and you can see them. Whereas, the old conference call where, you hear your name and you say, oh, could you repeat that? Because you're doing something else, right? So even when the pandemic's gone and someone kind of goes back to normal, video will still be with us. I worked with a school district. This is something to think about too. Again, this is over a year ago, a school district in northern Michigan, and they've been doing remote learning for 20 years. And what they found was because they were in a small area, they would say like we're on an AP class for like AP government, right? And they needed 10 students, right? But they only had 7 maybe. And so then they could open up to the other school districts around them and say, hey, we need 3 more kids. You got someone who needs AP government. So then they could join those. Or they could take up to 15. So then, one school district wasn't have to, have that burden of trying to teach all these kids on their own. They could leverage these other resources. So for a school district, this could become a profit center for you if you're going to offer content or some type of learning that maybe another school doesn't, but they might have a student that's interested in that. It could be a profit center. So there's a lot of things that when we get beyond the pandemic that video can do, and all this stuff that you guys bought, it can be repurposed and definitely get a lot more value out of it.
Yeah, if I can just piggyback on what
Sure.
what Brian said there for a minute, just kind of as a category that we all represent, you know, I think the question does come up with what do I do with this gear after the pandemic? And, you know, we've seen a lot of organizations that are now looking to offer things they couldn't offer before. Perhaps students in the middle school who want to take high school classes, but they were having to ride a bus and miss out on middle school activities. You can now extend those class offerings within the district. Or even things as simple as students with a cold who would previously have to stay home can now be taught virtually, and you get, as a school district, the revenue from teaching that student that day. So we believe that there is a absolutely an ongoing place for this technology even post-pandemic.
Great, thank you. So we don't have any more questions coming in, but I do want to thank all our presenters for their time and for the effort today, from both from Poly, NEAT, and Logitech. And we will post this video of the webinar up on our Ohio Distance Learning Association's YouTube channel, so that if you're watching and you want somebody else in your orbit to see this video, you can point them to our YouTube site. And we do, again, appreciate everybody's participation today. And if you have specific questions for Poly or NEAT or Logitech, we can get you their contact information, our presenters' contact information, and they'd be glad to answer questions for you. And again, thanks to Dave Stein for, and you want to take us away, Dave? Oh,
I want to, one last note, and I apologize for the interruption, but I appreciate Brian and Spencer bringing up the point about sharing of courses. The OhioDLA, we are working on a project right now. We have a committee forming an online system so that we can have a state-based course exchange. We're modeling that after a couple of other states that have had programs in place for a while. So yeah, and you know, what better opportunity to raise awareness than a huge crisis like what we have now. But there are pockets of daily course programs that are existing right now already that have been running for some time, but we foresee a lot more participation, and it's going to offer the ability to fill up teacher schedules, you know, when there are gaps, and it is going to bring opportunity to students who wouldn't otherwise be able to have certain coursework. So, and even with College Credit Plus, we have teachers now out in the field that are credentialed at the high school level, and students are gaining college credit, and some of it's being done through this medium. So there's a lot more coming, and we really, really appreciate everybody being involved. Thanks. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks for the invite.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody. Yes. And I'm going to go ahead and say thanks to the participants, and we'll see you on the YouTube channel, and tune in for other Ohio Distance Learning Association's webinars. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.